I'm Chris. I'm here with this 2019 Chevy Denali or GMC Denali, and we're going to do some repair on the door and the bedside for it. The customer dropped it off this morning. Let me show you what we got here. This is the truck. Really nice looking truck. And this is the damage on the truck. It's got some scratches here, and then a good sized dent on the bottom of this door, and then there's another scratch here. Let's get started on that, and before I forget, let me just say thanks for tuning in. I appreciate each and every one of you watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't. Click the bell notification down below and you'll get notification whenever I post a new video. I appreciate it. Let's get started. So I'm just doing the top half to this dent right now. I want to get that body line real well. That body line right there, I want to get that straight. So first I'm going to work this top and then grind this bottom and see where I'm at. I mixed up a little too much Bondo here. So you don't really want to do that because it wastes materials. And materials aren't cheap, so I'm going to put most of it in though, because as you know, when you're sanding body filler, you're going to take most of it out. So it's good to have a little extra in there so you don't have to keep applying if you don't need to. Saves time in the process. Okay, now that we got this body filler laid in, it's nice and dry. I'm going to get some 80 grit sandpaper, and I'm going to put it on a block, and we're going to block this. I'm going to show you how we're going to do that. So let's do that now. Okay, so this is the Durablock here, and this is I'm not sure how long it is, but so we're going to do an X pattern here. Want to be careful not to hit this panel. We don't need to paint that panel. This is straight black. So in fact, what I'm going to do, so as we're blocking, you can see the low spots. These are high. These are low. I mean, this is just after the first blocking. I think you can see that on camera. Yeah, you can see how it's sanding this, and this is a low area here. So what you want it to be is all uniform and level. It's actually sanding very easy. I'm not putting a lot of pressure on it. And it's just cutting it really easy. And that's due to the Bondo. That's due to the body filler. Okay, so as you can see, it's all getting sanded and the low spots are revealing themselves. Here's a low spot, here's a low spot, there. Now I still have some blocking to do, but I just wanted to get you to look at that and see that. Let me move you around here so you can take a look. See? So that's basically, it's exposing the low spots. You continue blocking until it's level or until you go through the body filler. If I were to go through the body filler right here and it would show metal, then that would indicate that I have a high spot here. And I would have to do, depending on the situation, I would have to put more Bondo on it or body filler or knock down a high spot. So it's very important when you're pulling this panel out and taking that dent out that you don't leave a lot of high areas. I tend to try and get it as close as I can to where it should be, and then I knock it in just a hair. That way I know when I lay body filler on it, I have enough. I'm gonna have a little bit more body filler in it, but it's gonna be very minimal, and it's gonna save me time because I'm not gonna have a high spot when I start blocking it and then create other issues. So there's also a low spot here where I knocked down a high spot, so that's gonna have to be filled, but I'm gonna continue blocking on this and straightening it up. And you don't want to push real hard on this panel, especially if you had a panel that's got a lot of flex to it. This one doesn't. It's an aluminum panel, so it doesn't have a ton of flex in it. But if you start blocking and pushing really hard, you're not getting the panel straight. You're creating highs and lows. So you want to keep that in mind. We're at a point where I need to make a decision here. Okay, so let me zoom out a little bit. Okay, so what we have is I've been blocking on this. I've got the low spots here, but what has started to happen is I've exposed some metal. See, there was body filler covering this, and there was body filler covering this metal here. So, and this metal here. So what it's saying to me is that there's a ridge or a high spot here, okay? Something I may have missed when I was straightening the panel. So basically what I need to do is knock this ridge down just a tad so I can create a level. Because you kind of got to use your judgment, and when I'm feeling this, I can almost feel that ridge just a little bit. Yes, it's low here, so it's deceiving. So this whole section is low, and that's going to need more body filler. But I can feel a ridge. So, and it's minor, and you may never see it, but I like to do the best I can as far as getting it straight and stuff. So I'm going to knock these high spots down just a tad, and then put another coat of Bondo on this. You'll see me DA this line straight because I'm not worried about down here yet. I'm just gonna get that line on this flat area flat to build that line up. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. So, let me show you what we have here. I went ahead and you saw me DA this lower section here, and basically what that did it was I was holding the DA flat and I was using it kind of like a block. Okay, so it's created some high and low spots. A low spot here, as you can see, the paint's still there, and where the metal is all the high spots. Okay, so what I've done is I've feeling this and doing some. I've noticed that there's a large high spot right here that I need to address. So what I'm going to do is tap that and knock that down, so when I do lay the filler on it, that I'm not breaking through and showing metal, and I'm lowering that high spot to get a good straight panel. Okay, so we're going to address that. This feels very good. It's ready for another skim coat here to get that leveled out. So I'm going to knock this down. Let's see. But what I want to do is I want to knock this down because before I fill this, because in knocking this down and creating this and getting this flat, it may affect this panel here. Okay, it may affect the upper part of this panel. So before I lay another coat of Bond on here, I need to address this, and probably I'm going to fill this at the same time I fill this. So there is a large high spot here, and what I'm going to do is after I put the next coat of filler on, I'm going to show you how to use a guide coat. And what a guide coat basically does is basically the same thing that we're doing here. I'm using the body filler as a guide coat right now, but once you get into getting the panel exactly straight or perfectly straight, then it becomes harder to feel the high and low spots. So you use a guide coat, and what that is I just use a inexpensive black spray paint, and when you block it, it shows it sands the black paint off, and all the low spots are exposed with the black paint. So that's just another tool you can use to get these panels straight. So let's go ahead and knock this down and get this filled and continue on here. Okay, I'm feeling really good about this right now. I did use the DA to go over this. I used it flat, and it exposed a high spot right here. So I went ahead and knocked that down. It's feeling pretty flat, and flat enough that a thin coat of filler is going to straighten it out. So let's go ahead and do that. Now that I've got this Bondo on here, we're going to block sand it once again. I'm probably going to run over it with the 80 grit DA real quick, flatten it out, and then block it with the long block. Okay, what we're going to do now is, it's blocking out really nicely. But what we're going to do is, you can see some low spots there. I'm going to go ahead and show you how to use a guide coat. We're going to tape this off so we don't get any overspray on anything. And then we're going to go and spray it with some just some flat black paint. And I'm just going to do the top section because I'm going to show you how to make that body line on the bottom section. There are a couple pinholes, but for the most part, this Bondo is sanding very well, very smooth. It's very easy to sand. If it was a cheap, inexpensive Bondo, this would be a lot more difficult to get straight. Just the process of sanding would just take a lot longer. So let me tape this off and I'll show you how we use it. Okay, so this is just some inexpensive enamel paint. We're going to spray a dust coat on here. That way that'll show us the highs and lows. That's all we need. We'll let that flash off and dry. If you don't let it dry, then it'll gum up your paper. But this way, it'll dry and we'll be able to see our high and low spots and see how straight we got it. So it's important to hold it flat, keep it flat. Okay, so this is unexpected to me. So I was blocking sanding, and right here, that's not black paint, that's aluminum. So we've went through right here. So we need to stop blocking this area because I was trying to block this out, holding it flat. This is still low. So a skim coat probably across this whole area here is probably going to be warranted. And of course I need to fill, there's a gap there, so I need to fill that. But what I'm going to do now is block this. I'm going to show you how to create that edge. What we want to do is we want to put a piece of tape from where we know the body line's good, and we know the body line's good at the end here. So we're going to put a tape on that edge of that body line and then block up to it from here. Block up to it, and that'll create that. It'll create a hard edge, a straight line, and then what we can do is at the very end roll that edge to give it a little bit of an angle so it's not real sharp. Here's an indicator here. We're not going through the metal, but we're going through to the first layer of Bondo. So we know that this is a little bit of a high area. We'll see if it'll block out or not. Okay, so it's gone through and metal. So what I'm going to do is a skim coat of I'm probably not going to use the actual body filler, but I'm going to use a poly putty to probably going to use body filler to fill this, but not up here. Well, maybe I will since I have to mix some up for this. So let's lay that. I'm going to lay that in there first, and we'll block that out and see where we're at. Okay, guys. So we got this door on the Sierra or Denali of this truck all primered, I've started to unbag it. I've removed the door handle. What we're going to continue to do is block sand this. I'm going to block sand it with 320 grit paper, sandpaper, and I'm going to use my long block, my Durablock long block, and we're going to block that, make sure it's straight. I'm going to go by feel. I mean, I may use a guide coat, but you can see it looks pretty good. There are, let me see if you can see, let me zoom in here. See, there's a couple pinholes right here. We need to put a little poly putty in there. Okay, so I went ahead and block sanded that, and I found a couple low areas. Went through the primer there. So when you go through the primer, you really want to recover it with primer. So I'm going to go ahead and block sand this out again, and then reprime it, just probably the lower portion, and then 600 the rest of these panels. I also got that trim piece off, and so let's continue on. Okay, so we're pretty much all done with this Denali. Just wanted to give you a quick look at the finished product. It still needs to be washed, and I need to put the tail light in and just do a kind of cleanup on it. But give you a look at the finished product. You can see my reflection in there. Nice gloss and shine. There's the dent, one of the dents we repaired there. Now I'm going to clean this up, but he didn't want that fixed. I wasn't worried about that, and we fixed this dent here. It's got some dust on it, but overall looks really, really nice. I'm going to go over a couple things. I noticed a particle of dust somewhere. Didn't quite come out totally, but I'm going to wet sand and buff that. But for the most part, this job is done. I need to do a little bit more buffing on it. But yeah, so that's it. And I'll probably get another shot of it outside